So it always takes a few minutes to go live. And for that, well, since now like I use a monitor, so I'm like looking left and right and I feel like a chipmunk when looking at the recording that like, why am I being so weird?
Chipmunk.
So I have to wait to hear an echo. That's when I know I'm live. Awesome, I live. So I'll quickly share my screen, introduce the session, introduce Andrada, and then we can get started. I just got exposed. I was looking at one of her kernels in preparation, so that's what you all saw. But welcome back, everyone. Thanks for joining on a Friday. I'm super excited to be talking to Andrada today. Second time on the series. I'll quickly introduce her. First, I want to like glance over what are these series about, what is chai time, and this is essentially CTDS 2.0. So what is that all about? Uh, at Weights and Biases, I used to host a podcast called Chai Time Data Science in my previous life. At Weights and Biases, I get to continue doing that, and I wanted to do more to it. So now we dive into deeper techniques. We do solution walkthroughs where I essentially get to meet great people like Andrada and understand how do they approach things. So that's what we're doing today. Again, we're learning about EDA Grandmastery, and here's the link for questions and answers. So I'll post this again in the YouTube chat. If you head over to this link, which I'll just show you, it should take you to this thread and you all can post your questions here. And we'll keep looking at it as we go through the session. YouTube chat is a little finicky, so this gets retained and I can keep an eye out. So please post your questions again on this link. A little more logistic stuff before I introduce Andrada. Sorry about that. So I've just told you what CTDS 2.0 is about. It's adding a depth to the interview series. It's learning more about techniques, learning more about solutions. I'll also have a few questions around Andrada's EDA journey. Then we'll understand how she approaches new data sets and also how did she approach that for a complete kernel, one that she's already put out. So Andrada is top eight worldwide out of, I think it's 5 million now, Kagglers in the notebooks category, one of the top ranked notebooks grandmasters. She's a data scientist at Andrada, one of the best EDA storytellers, one of the also best people to hear the stories from. If you've watched her interview on Chai Time Data Science, it's one of the most streamed ones for a reason, just because she's such an amazing orator, an amazing person to speak to. She's a mentor of mine, and she's one of the reasons why I'm at Weights and Biases. I had a conversation with her. So this is also another literal reason why this session is happening. Andrada, thanks again for joining me for the second time.
No, thank you so much. And thank you for your kind words and for all that you do for this community. It's absolutely amazing. Your videos are still most of my watched. So thank you so much for doing all this work. Thank you. And for having me.
I'm always excited to know more about your journey. I keep asking you online and offline. So going back to our previous interview, you were a master. Then since then you've become a Kaggle grandmaster. And in the previous interview, you shared that it wasn't the external motivating factor for you. It was just about creating these kernels, like understanding the process. Broadly, what is EDA to you? What does that stand for to you?
So the first time I properly heard the word exploratory data analysis was in my master's. And it was about statistics and finding insights within the data, which is static. So machine learning goes beyond that and tries to predict something, which gets a little bit more dynamic. However, EDA is something that you want to see in a particular point in time, in the past or in the present, something that you want to understand about some action that is happening there. And you can for sure draw some conclusions and also maybe implement some actions right on the spot by doing only EDA. So you don't have to get to the machine learning process. I actually saw a tweet a few days ago about something like who tweeted this? It was something like, you don't have to, so the first step in doing machine learning is not doing machine learning. And it was something like, by analyzing the data, you don't have to build neural models and trade them for thousands of epochs and stuff like that. You can do something just by analyzing and drawing some conclusions by looking at the data. So that's EDA. For me personally, EDA is more about the visual part, I would say. So everything, not necessarily graphs, but also the explanations that get behind with all the schemas and understanding it. Like, it's extremely visual. Yeah.
So leaning into that, like, what according to you is like a good EDA? Heads or Tails creates this like hidden gems every single week. You get featured a lot of the times. To you, if you were to like create a list of things that, you know, really stand out to you, what broadly is good EDA?
So good EDA, and a good visualization for that matter, is something that in structure, so talking about the structure of it, is extremely clean and clear and beautiful and visually appealing, I might add. And that kind of makes the user go into different directions. It also, so it clears stuff about their questions, and it also puts more, it gives clarity, but also some sort of curiosity to go even further. Because usually from a graph, you get some answers, which is amazing. But if it's a very good graph, and usually it doesn't always turn out this way, but a very good visual, it also provides some even more questions, and you want to get even deeper into the data and get you curious and be like, oh, okay, what's next? I would like to know about this more and stuff like that. Yeah.
Awesome. Everyone has seen this like extended effort that you put into it. You've given talks around it. You've created posts around it. Also, you create special banners. You go the extra length of even looking at what gets printed in the console output. You also change the colors of that. How do you every single time? How do you find something new to try? Like, doesn't it get exhausted at a limit, or like how do you like find those ideas?
It gets very exhausting actually, but I feel like it's and I'm saying this a lot in my talks, and also this is what I encourage a lot people to do, is try to bring something new every time. It doesn't matter how small it is. And I have been doing Kaggle, I think, religiously for the past two years. So to do something 2 years is like religiously, it's quite a lot of time. I don't go to gym religiously. I haven't been going, or I haven't been eating very clean religiously for the past 2 years or stuff like that. So I think Kaggle has been the only thing that I have been doing regularly for 2 years straight. And it gets tiring, because at some point you're like, how can I get this to the next level? But the answer is, you always, like, if you have that faith in your head that there's always something better, then it gets your brain thinking and you're getting creative. If you're putting a stop and you're having like a limiting belief saying, oh no, like this is all I can do, I can't do even more, of course you won't do more. So the secret, I would say, the secret sauce would be to be like, okay, what can I add? I'm sure there's something very interesting out there. Where can I find it? And then doing the research and getting curious, like you said, banners. Okay, I saw, the first time I saw banner, I was like, oh my God, the Farul. I was like, oh, she's amazing. This is it's CSS. Okay, HTML in markdowns. That's amazing. I didn't know about that. And then you go a step even further, and I'm like, can I make this prettier? Can I add something, a little something to it? And the answer is yes. Yes, 100 times.
People were getting the secret sauces. That's what we had promised in the tweets. And it also goes back to your in the previous interview you mentioned you have this like very visual, very artistic, artisty inclination, and you're always on the hunt for like how to make things stand out, and it always comes across in your notebooks, kernels. Older people call it kernels, older Kagglers.
Yeah.
So broadly speaking, how do you approach EDA? And we can also use that as a transition to like looking at one of your kernels. So when you see a new data set, what comes to mind? How do you go about your EDA? I've seen your tweets. You first draw the plot literally and then go about it. So like what's happening behind the scenes? Take us through that.
Okay, so can I share my screen with you?
Please.
Okay, so everybody's seeing my screen, okay?
I can see it, Rajat, yes.
Okay, so...
I wish you would have started with the Elon one where you like, I think Photoshop Bitcoin to his eyes.
Do you want me to go through Elon? I was like, I'm already going through the... oh, I know what you're talking about. You are talking about the
notebook, crypto
the
one?
cover, right?
Bitcoin/Dogecoin one, yes.
Yeah.
This one.
Yeah. I could make it even better right now. I mean, like this is always a ongoing process.
I should have bought some Dogecoin before this talk. The prices are gonna go up now.
Okay, so I'm gonna first introduce the topic a little bit, and then I'm gonna walk you through. The thing is, this is not really a recipe. Like usually when you want to get something done, you are like, okay, it's like, I don't know, baking bread. You have the flour, you have a certain amount of flour, you have salt, you have yeast and stuff like that. You know the exact temperature in the oven and so on. For EDA, or for at least my notebooks, usually it's not really a recipe. They start with a thought of, okay, I really want to do this particular thing. In this case, so this is a notebook I did almost a year ago. It's been it's been like in a heartbeat. Almost a year ago on a competition, the famous annual Kaggle Survey, so Kaggle usually puts out a survey usually during this time, and they interview all these data scientists that they have on Kaggle and learn about how old they are, what is their background, what they know, what they use, what they don't use, and so on. So afterwards, during December, usually they have a competition, very interesting competition, when they say, okay, do an analysis on some sort of feature. So we want you to understand some sort of particular aspect from data, whatever aspect you want, put it out there, and then greatness happens. Last year, 2 years ago, actually, I was too scared to participate. I was like, I don't have anything to. And honestly, I was quite a beginner. So I was just discovering Seaborn and how to use it. And
was this the McDonald's one where you like compared the McDonald's purchasing power across country?
Exactly, it's the McDonald's one. So it wasn't. So I'm gonna actually maybe break a few myths. It's not original. I asked a friend. And this is something many people, I feel like they're very afraid to do. So ask people. And this friend of mine, very good friend of mine, I worked with her. Her name is Georgiana. So I worked with her at Avon before. And she's very, very smart. She's extremely smart. And she knows how to draw insights and how to look at the data. I knew I was going to the right person. And so the idea of my notebook, first, let's talk about the idea of my notebook, was to analyze the cream, let's say, of the data scientists and understand how they became so good. And I had a struggle, really. I had a struggle because I was like, okay, what can I look at? I can look at their education. So yeah, probably grandmasters, and usually in their interviews with you, Sanya, say they have some kind of doctorate, for example, but that would exclude all the people that didn't really want to go through the education, but to really put the time and effort home. And then I wanted to look at years in programming, but this doesn't mean like you can code once a week for 5 years and be like average, but then you can code hardcore every day for 12 hours straight, no sleep, no food and stuff like that in 1 year, and you're like a god. So I didn't like that approach as well. So I kind of went with the more, let's say, traditional aspect, which is money. Really, how much money are you paid to do your work? However, this was a problem because, and this is the McDonald's stuff, and what I found out from this friend of mine. I was like, how can I compare pay? Because $100 in, for example, Romania, maybe can buy much more stuff than $100 in US. And I'm telling you, it's buying much more because it depends on the power of purchase and stuff. And I asked her, and I was like, what should I use? And she was like, you can use like bread. What? Yeah, you can do bread or sugar or something like that. And you can compare like how much sugar can these like units of sugar, packs of sugar, can $100 buy in Romania versus US, India, Japan, and so on. It's like, okay, but can I make for fun for the foodies out there on Kaggle?
Yeah.
And I found the McMeal combo, and I was like, okay, we can go to that. So what I did was I compared, for example, this is a bar chart of all the units. So the majority of people, so the histogram was super, super skewed. So of course,
before that, can we talk about how did you decide, first of all, and how did you plot those French fries out there, and how did that thought come into your mind? Like, how does this magic happen in all of your kernels? I really want to understand that.
You're really picking my brain right now. I'm trying to find the process that somebody else could follow. So regardless of the main idea of the notebook, what I usually try to do, and the idea here was, so I looked at the notebooks that were made before, so in 2019, 2018, I think. Yeah. And I saw kind of the level, and I looked at first, second, third, first, fifth, 5 places, and I was like, okay, how can I top that? Because, and this is amazing, actually. If you look at the winners in 2018, their notebooks are absolutely amazing. But if you look at the winners in 2019, you can see they went a little bit extra. And then the winners in 2020, like, I thought I did a good job. I got third. Like the first and the second places, they are like mind blown. It's absolutely amazing what those people did. So they went even further, and now I'm super curious what 2021 is gonna bring. And this is the same like breaking records. It's the exact same thing. It's not bad to look at something and compare and want to do something much better, because this is how evolution works. So seeing, it's like, I can give you another example with running. So I think the record for running for like hundreds of years was like for while running 1 mile, it was 4 minutes or something. 4 or 5 minutes. Don't quote me on that. But it was like a number. And then the record was broke by 1 second. And then that record was broken again and again and again, just because one person dared to break that record. It's exactly the same here. You want to break the record of the last year, because this is how you evolve and you're making much, much, much more progress. And this is how you want to break the record from past yourself. Also, like Andrada from last year. Hopefully I broke the record on her. Like I'm working pretty hard. I hope she's proud of me for breaking the record. Okay, so the idea here was, how can I make these graphs? Because I looked at what other people did. And like, okay, I need to come up with some sort of very out of the box analysis. But how can I visually bring this better, like to the next level, let's say? And I took each graph, like each particular graph, and said, okay, I did the box plot. So here is just a simple, very simple box plot in Seaborn. But I added so many features, and I was like, okay, what can I do to make this even better? I can add French fries. I can add I can add arrows. I can add information to the graph. I can change the color of these to match the fries in the box. I can do stuff like that. And this is what I did. Yeah, sure.
Can I ask a question around that? Like, you always have this super vibrant, positive attitude, and you're always trying to improve. Also, from just creating so much content, I've learned that the difference between great and like out of the world content is just those last minute optimization. The last mile is always the hardest. Like, it's almost done. You could call it done. And then you waste so much time in a way just doing one thing, and then something great comes out of it. So like, does it ever get frustrating for you? Or like, how do you continue when, let's say, the plot is almost done and like you don't have the arrows, you're trying to make them, you're trying to figure out what to do? Like, how do you fight that frustration, if at all?
You know what you're saying? I think I know very well what you're saying. I think so. When you take a step back and you look at it and you're like, it looks good. It's never, if you're a perfectionist, it's never gonna look like outstanding. It's never. But when you look at it and you're like, it looks good. It looks pretty good for now. However, during an analysis, so this notebook took 1 month and a little bit to do. Each day, kind of, I did. So I worked on it. I go back. So I make it. I can't tell you how many times I changed a color scheme just because I was like, this doesn't work. Or how many times in one notebook I'm like, this graph is very ugly, I need to change it. Or the cover, I changed the cover and now I don't like it, by the way. But I changed this cover so many times. I don't like it now. I would change this 100%. Okay. But this is it, just constant improvement until the thing is, it's a deadline. So when the deadline is here, you can't do anything more, and you're like, okay, I did the best that I could. It looks amazing. I am proud of myself. I did all the best that I could. It looks amazing. But what I can tell you is, because it looks overwhelming now, right? I put these colors, I have a table here. It's all this methodology behind. First of all, mind you, it took me 1 month to make it. So it didn't take me 5 minutes or something, first of all. And second of all, so between very bad work and average work, this is from Tony Robbins, by the way, so it's not me. Between poor work and mediocre work is a lot of hustle. Between average mediocre work and great work is a lot of hassle. Between great work and outstanding work is just like teeny tiny little bit of effort more.
I think it's the opposite, that like I think it takes like an insane effort to like not call it done and then like keep at it. Like I would just be happy that okay, now like the numbers are there, like I'm done. I'm done. I can spend 1 month on like making things look better. I give up.
I'm gonna go to the another notebook in a second, and in that notebook, first of all, the frustration was so big. It took me 1 week to do a visualization, and at the end of that week, I was like, I can't do this. How am I supposed to make a good, understandable notebook in 1 month, if in 2 months really, if one visualization takes me 1 week? Like, I can't possibly handle it. But what I'm trying to say is just adding little details and making it your own, throwing in your own personality, because it doesn't have to look like mine. I remember last year, so in this competition, I saw a super great idea of somebody that used like in between text. It was a dialogue. It was like a theater piece that I was watching through looking into his analysis. And I thought, oh, wow, this idea is amazing. Sometimes you don't have to come up with the visualization after you have the data set and like, oh, okay, this is the insight. Now, how do I, because usually this is the case. So you have the insight, and then how do I represent it in a way that I can share it with the people? However, that's not always the case. Maybe you already have not really the insight, but what you want to share, and then you can create the insight on base of it. And I'm gonna give you 2 examples. So, for example, in this case, what I think made me won in this competition was the fact that I added a map. So it was a pretty cool map. Yeah.
These ones, right?
Exactly. So I did it in, I can't remember. I'm gonna leave it below in the comments. I can't remember the tool I used, but I used the tool like very similar with Photoshop. And
Canva, maybe?
No.
Okay.
This is because the thing is, these are stamps, and I put them by hand one by one. So this was like a piece of paper. And I followed tutorials on YouTube on how to create this map. I knew when I started this competition, so before I knew what I want to analyze, before I knew the McDonald's scheme, before I knew anything really, I was like, I want to do a map. And this is because it's not like insane idea that I had during sleep or something. It was the fact that in summer last year, I was browsing through some deep learning courses, and I stumbled upon on Google on an analysis that was like a map, a very cool gaming app. It looked like super awesome. And the guy that did the article split a land piece into something like data analytics, machine learning, deep learning, blah, 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 neural networks, and so on. So it was like areas within the land. And I thought that was so awesome. Oh my God, it looks great. I want to do that. So I knew the competition is going to start in December. And I was like, I am going to draw a map. So I already knew the theme before I started everything. And then I was like, okay, treasure hunt, gold, money. I'm going to make a treasure hunt about the cream of the cream, the grandmasters. Maybe I can spot them and be like, okay, what do you do to be so great? So it was the theme and then the analysis. If you want, I can go can I go further to the other notebook?
Please.
So
this is really incredible. Like this is what really I want to achieve through just the series, like really understanding the minds of great one of the best people of the field, just like you. How do they like go about these things, and just trying to understand one step beyond the original interview series. So please.
The thing is, I'm not, I like artsy stuff and I like to make things beautiful, but in my brain, I am not that creative. In a sense of, I don't think I invent the wheel and then I put it in the notebooks. I know it sometimes might be looking like that, but I really am not. What I am doing and I'm trying to constantly do to stay humble and be like, okay, I don't know everything, is to research. Because when you're browsing Google and trying to find people that are doing great visualization, for example, you're going to find at some point, I know it's hard to find them, but you're going to find at some point somebody that does something very great and inspires you. And you're like, oh, I want to do that too. Or you see a map and you're like, oh, I want to do that too. Or this stuff, for example, and I don't know, putting icons. I feel like I saw this somewhere. Now it's been too long, so I can't remember the source really. But I was like, oh, you can put icons on graphs and make them fun. And I don't know, pirate hats and so on. So just sticking to the theme, right? I am not doing anything out of the box really, but just like treasure hunt, pirates, map, gold, and sticking to that, I managed to do this, and I'm super proud. I'm really super proud of this one. However, I didn't win the first or the second, or I was the third. And when I saw I was the third, because in Kaggle usually people that have the most upvotes don't necessarily have like the most out of the box notebook. Mm-hmm. Usually super out of the box notebooks are very hidden. And yeah. I saw that a lot of times, just because that person maybe they aren't very active on Kaggle, for example, and they did something like super amazing, but because they aren't very active, they didn't get much traction, and the notebook kind of others got stacked upon it and it was lost. So I haven't seen the first and the second place notebooks. I haven't seen, and I looked through many notebooks before the competition ended. And then I saw, like, for me, the second notebook, the second place notebook was what got me very, very intrigued. Because after doing this analysis, I was like, okay, I have no idea what I can do even more with Seaborn, Matplotlib. And Plotly, it's amazing, Plotly, but I'm not that fond of it. I don't know why personally, but I was like, I want to get even further, a step further. So I stalked Schubert, which has been like, oh my God, he's the reason I kind of got to the next level. But not that easy, because I got scared at first. Okay, so this is his notebook, which is the second prize winner. So besides the fact that it is super insightful and it gets in extremely deep and it's super interesting. Like, if you have the time, just you can check it out, look at it, see what he's done. He's using a lot of Plotly in it. What I got amazed is about this graph, where you can make it change. And I was like, what kind of sorcery is this? Like, how can you do that? And then show hidden code. And sometimes you get scared when you show the code. And I saw HTML and I'm like, oh, what? And then I saw JavaScript. What? And I'm like, what the heck is this? And I closed it. I was like, no, this is not for me.
Is this why later you learned D3.js recently?
Yeah, because I would have learned it much sooner. But I was like, oh, this is too complicated for me. No. And this was a mistake. And I encourage everybody to not use that. Like, if you want to do something and it looks scary and hard, just do it. It's scary and it looks hard just because you haven't done it before, and it looks like super foreign to you. Yeah. So fast forward summer, August, beginning of August, I realized I was not following what I was preached. Being you want to add something new every time. You want to learn something new. You want to put out something new in each notebook, at least the smallest thing. And I was like, well, I haven't been doing much progress in the visualization part, and it's the stuff that makes me the most excited. And I went back to Schubert's notebook. What is he using? Like, what is this style? And, horrible. And then I tweeted him. Like, I didn't tweet him, but I sent him a message. I was like, hi, can you please explain to me what did you use? And he was like, D3. So this was the beginning of my D3 journey. I asked him, so he gave me some courses, interesting courses on Udemy. I did a course. It was challenging, and I'm going to tell you. So D3 is absolutely amazing. Like, you can do spaceships with D3, really.
Okay.
Like,
I mean, I can't do even bar plot, so like I can't do spaces, but I'm assuming people can.
So it's absolutely amazing. However, for a data scientist, or at least, I don't know, for you have been interviewing many people. Do data scientists, from your knowledge, know JavaScript? Like, are they familiar?
So. I don't think so. Maybe like if they come from that background, maybe then. But most of them, like the people I interview, haven't. So.
Okay. So JavaScript, in my opinion, is more of a like hardcore programming language. D3, fortunately, because it's so granular, and this is why you can do spaceships really with it, is that it uses JavaScript. So it uses JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. HTML is for creating the place where you want your dashboard to go, because you can do dashboards, you can do anything really with D3. Then you have CSS for the beautifying, visually appealing stuff. And then the backend part, or like what goes to create the structure of the visualization, is JavaScript, and the library that uses JavaScript, which is D3. So like we are using matplotlib for Python, you're using D3 with JavaScript. You want to go into like other stuff, like we are used with Jupyter Notebooks, for example, Kaggle Notebooks. I went through more hardcore environments. I forgot. I think it's called EDA. It doesn't matter. Like a Visual Studio. Mm-hmm. And it was quite intense, but it got me to the next level. And this is what I want to share you. Actually, because I already have a link. So this is a graph I found that uses D3, for example, and all the code behind it is available. So you can put your own data into it. And what is amazing is you are looking at this, everything is done in D3, and you are trying to think of some similarity with Seaborn or Plotly or Matplotlib, and it doesn't have any similarity whatsoever. So these are hit songs and how many days they stayed in the leaderboard. The gray ones is kind of, it dropped out after 24 days, this one after 47 and so on. Like, it's spiraling. This isn't even, like, we are getting beyond pie chart, bar chart, box plot stuff.
Beyond Plotly, beyond just animated stuff you can click.
Yeah, is interactive. You can transform into a bar chart. It's absolutely amazing, and you have a button, and it moves.
And that animation,
like, so seamless. And I was like, I want to learn how to do that, because it is insane. And then you can transform into radial chart again, and I want to show you. So if you click, it sends you to Spotify, to the song. And again, I feel like, wow, that's amazing. So this is super interactive stuff. And the person that did this did lots and lots more interactive things. And what's insane is, again, you can insert somewhere down here, you have the data, which is just a simple CSV file with the artist, the name, when it premiered, first appearance, week, and so on. So if you put a CSV here, like, you can just append the CSV here with the same format, you can use this graph from scratch. Like, you don't have to do it from scratch. You can just use this work. Of course, just reference, I cannot say this enough, reference anybody you're not copying, but using their work. It's not a big deal, like, everybody does that, but just reference. But this guy is awesome. So after seeing this, I just couldn't go back to Seaborn. I just couldn't. I was like, no, I need to understand. And this is why I created this. So this competition ended yesterday, and it was a struggle for me until the end, especially in the moment that I realized that I am not going to finish this analysis as I wanted, just because the graphs were taking me too long. So this is COVID-19 impact on digital learning. It was a very interesting competition where you could analyze how is really the state of the children in terms of engagement, and how are they learning, and what are their thoughts. And this was very close to my heart, of course, also because my mother is also a teacher, so I talked with her a lot. So the research was done. It was just the fact that, for example, this chart. So if you want to use D3, you can safely copy this notebook, because it has everything you'll need, inclusively some tweaks that I had to do in order to make D3 work in a Kaggle environment. But this graph, which I went back to a couple of times also, it took a week.
Okay.
It doesn't look like it's nothing really. But the fact that I needed to learn JavaScript, HTML, CSS, how to put everything in practice, how to order them, some errors, how to work with a console within the web page. It's not hard, but it took a little bit of time. So if you want to learn D3, you want to prepare with some sort of patience. And then I went into some hardcore stuff, and I'm just going to show you some things that you can really do. For example, a bar chart, just a simple bar chart, can go into something very interactive where you can see like numbers, I added also a line here. This is referenced, so I saw somebody use that. Then I went back because I saw like this cool gradient. Apparently it's super easy to add a cool gradient to the bar chart. And I added this too. Again, you can add this interactivity to any plot. And this one, for example, so this one, I can actually show you the original.
Sure.
Because the wheel.
And so, sorry to interrupt. Someone asked, is this pre-recorded? No, it's not. We're live. We're literally live. We'll get to the Q&A afterwards. So please keep the questions coming. This is not Chai Time Data Science, the original one where I record and premiere them. It's live.
Okay. So great for the excitement. And this is, I remember what I wanted to say. So for this particular analysis, I didn't come up with the, like, I first knew what I wanted to do. Like, I want to make this wheel. How can I incorporate this visualization into what I'm working now? So it wasn't the insight. Again, it wasn't the insight and then the graph. It was first the graph and then the insight. And I remember I came into observable and I saw this wheel, which it blew my mind because it's something like, it's not really a pie chart. So this is equal area radial matrix of LGBT rights in US. So this is a wheel that you can, you can move. And I feel like, oh, okay. And so for each state here, they are split into Southwest, Northwest, Midwest, and so on. So I feel like it's pretty easy to read this wheel. You have, if marriage, for example, is like fully allowed or partially, hospital visits, adoption, employment, housing. So for these people, if these, let's say, facilities, or not really facilities, but these areas, let's say, that all people have rights to, if they have also maximum right or partially, you have where the data is, so where it's bent, not clear is when it's gray. And then you can also analyze. So the amazing thing is you can analyze full time between these characteristics, let's call them, and between states in the same time. Mind you, in Matplotlib, in my opinion, what you would have needed to do instead of just one cohesive, very, very informative wheel was to do pie charts, 50 pie charts, or 2, 4, 6, 7 pie charts, and then in each pie chart to put like the state. It's not that intuitive, and it's not that easy to understand. And the idea is to analyze the graph and draw insights. So this wheel, I was like, I need to do this. It's absolutely insane. It took me 1 week to fully implement it with my data. But I did it. Nevertheless, I did it. So this is the origin of the wheel. And then I went in and went further. For example, this is another graph that I'm very, very proud of, which took another week. On school timeline. So this is the activity, and then this is the engagement of the children in top states. So you can see here. So
this also is in D3, right?
Everything is in D3. So for this analysis, everything I did was in D3, just to get a hands-on, because you can do the courses, and I highly recommend the courses actually. So do the courses just to have a baseline. But after you did the courses, you want to have a pretty good hands-on and to start digging and researching and understanding for yourself. Learn by doing. it's the best way to learn, really. So this is a stream chart. This is called a stream chart. And again, I saw this and I was like, oh, I have to do this because it fascinated me, the fact that you can, so this is the time axis. You can see here where the pandemic started in US, when the school started to shut down, really, between March 16 and 24th. I hope you can see it quite clearly.
Yeah.
And then here you have the summer break, and then again the next school year. And the fact that you can move this line, and you can see here, so you can see on the left the date, and then to the right the state, which is here New York, here is Massachusetts, Illinois, Connecticut, and so on. And then how many loads, page loads per 1,000 students. And again, you can compare in time and see, oh, okay, so they all had around the same trend. You can't say, oh, New York dropped suddenly in summer. Of course it dropped suddenly in summer. It's summer. Nobody's studying in summer. Are you crazy? And then, but then it didn't quite get back to what it was. So, but you can also compare between the states and say, oh, so New York had the most engagement compared to, for example, California, which had a very low engagement. So again, this is a graph that has a lot of dimensions. I would call them, I don't know if it's very correct to say that, but you can get a lot of information by looking at just one thing instead of having like multiple line charts that go all over the place, and you need to look at the axis to see if it's a difference between them and so on. Mm-hmm. Okay, and if you are curious, you can go ahead and look into it more deeply. What I saw many people observe in one of my tweets, and I saw you had it too, Sanyam. From this D3 course, what I learned, and I was amazed, was that the guy said, whenever you're starting to make a very deeply complicated visualization, you want to have a notebook or just take a piece of paper. And after you have the visual, so for example, I don't know, here, after I knew I wanted to do this hive map of USA. And then here, I wanted to put a bar chart just because I knew, for example, I think this is Wisconsin here, you have an engagement. However, you want to look here and see that Wisconsin has only 3 districts. So maybe it's not that representative. However, Connecticut, you can look at Connecticut and you know it's extremely representative. So I just drew on a piece of paper. Okay, this is where my map I want to go. This is the title I want to be. Here is the bar chart and so on. So I made them in a sense that it's very easy afterwards to look at the paper and then create it, having it visually next to you in the Visual Studio. And this is, again, this is not my idea. I found out about it in that D3 course I took. And it's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah.
It's like, from what I understand, there are these steps, like people like me give up at just like getting the plot done and like we give up there. But like once you have the plots ready, then you can go another step, stylize them, create a color theme. Last time we talked about Rick and Morty themes, all those things. You can do that. Then you get to the code, you also comment it out, put nice comments in there, make sure it's up to quality. Then you go a step further where you like add arrows, add annotations to the graph themselves. Beyond that, this really is the I think the highest step any Kaggler has shown us, where you like learn an absolute new framework that I don't think any data scientist uses. I'm sure a few do, but like not on Kaggle, and create these like visualizations that are totally interactive, totally different. like everything about this, even this graph, like I'm sure you put in a lot of thought into understanding the background. There's like a gray background, not a black one. I would assume a black would stand out. I'm sure you would have experimented at some time
Oh, well, yeah.
picking the right shade of green. I'm assuming a brighter green is what I would have gone with, but like that might be just too annoying, so you tuned it a bit. Then like in the graph, the blue color
Of the
gradient
bar chart.
really,
Yeah.
yeah, like all of these thoughts are like these. You add another thing to the storytelling, you add another thing, you add another thing, and like it's all of these incremental steps that I'm just learning about now.
Yes, and in my opinion, so you don't have to be a visualization fanatic to do this. You can apply this in all your work, because this is how models are created, or this is how more complex analytics are created, and so on. It's just building upon what you did and building and trying to, for me at this point, I felt like I already discovered as much as I could have discovered using the usual mainstream libraries. And I just wanted to get a step further. So this took me 1.5 months to do the entire analysis, and lots of nerves. However, I realized yesterday when I kind of sprinted sprinted in the last few hours of the competition. This was made yesterday, for example. I realized when I shut down and I was like, okay, this is it. I can't do more. It's what I could do in the time I had. I don't think I can go back to like peacefully do a bar chart in Matplotlib and be like, very good, Andrada. Like, you did it. So I might add some sort of D3, because now I'm starting to like it, but because I'm starting to understand it. But it wasn't like that in the beginning. Like, as I told you, it was so frustrating.
It's like Kaggle really brings out the best version of everyone, not just because there's a leaderboard, but like anyone who's, especially in this like notebooks, you're like creating a story. So like anyone who's there like is trying to always like increment their approaches, and there's a reason you have the rank of top 10 in the world. It's not just a random number, right? It comes through all of this effort, and like the community really sees it through in your kernel, and we all like I can probably relate to this graph as well. I'm sure I would like just take the whitest color and put the title using that. But this I know is like a little slight off-white, if I may. I'm like getting the paint down in my house. That's why I'm like very much into what what colors are. But like it's totally like it totally comes through the attention to detail in all of these kernels. So
yeah, question everything. Should we go into the questions? Should I?
Sure.
What? Okay,
Sure.
I'm gonna stop sharing then.
Let me share my screen and get to them. I'll scroll to the top and start from there. I think this has been answered, so I'll skip that. How do you come up with your analysis? Sorry, go ahead.
As I said, so it's not second nature. If you have been inspired by something, then you can implement that and start building from there. Yeah.
Schubert is there in the YouTube chat. Shout out to you, Schubert. We've just been looking at your stuff a little while ago.
Oh, is Schubert here? Schubert is here?
Yes.
I gave you a big, like, again, thank you so much. Like, the fact that he implemented D3 is why I kind of got to the next level. So go follow him. He's an absolutely amazing human being. Thank you so much.
I said I feel seen in this comment. David, he's a good friend. He thinks that young or aspiring data scientists don't understand the value of SQL. Can you elaborate on your experience with SQL, and are those important in your opinion?
So I haven't been, but this is depending on your work. I have seen, so there are many debates. So if you are on Twitter and you follow many data scientists, you will see that there's a lot of debate on what is the best approach to machine learning, or what is the best approach to do something, or is it Kaggle worth it? The answer is everything is customizable to you. And if something works for somebody else, it doesn't mean it has to work for you. In my opinion, I worked with SQL in my previous job. Mm-hmm. Now I'm not working with it anymore, just because the job doesn't require. We are working with unstructured data. We are working with files. So it really depends. SQL, in my opinion, I think it's not used, for example, with images or text or something like that. It's used in databases. So if you are, and I can answer you with this. If you are a data scientist and you don't want to wait for other people, data engineers or other teams, or usually wait for a page to load to put in the parameters to extract a file, you want to go straight to the database because this is how you automate stuff, or this is how you make things go much faster and on your own terms, because you're doing this. I can do it now. I don't need anybody else to do it for me. Then you would need SQL. But if your friend wants to do deep learning, for example, it depends if she's using images or stuff. So, but I would recommend for everybody to know a little bit of SQL, because you don't know when you'll need it. Just a little bit. It's not that hard to learn, really.
If you're writing the queries in pandas using df.query, like you'll know an okay amount. I think that's enough to get around. Okay, coming ahead. What is a simple way for, like, let's to extend this question, what's a simple way for anyone in machine learning to get into Kaggle competitions or become a grandmaster?
Oh, a grandmaster in competitions I cannot pronounce because I'm not qualified in any way to answer that. But I can tell you a grandmaster in general. So first of all, the purpose shouldn't be to become a grandmaster. Yeah. And I've seen this, and this applies, in my opinion, to all areas of our life. If the purpose is to get a lot of money, be a grandmaster, I don't know, when the purpose is very, very community focused, and this is not, like, I swear to you, this is not bullshitting or something, but when you have contribution in mind, when you're thinking, how can I add to my community? How can I help somebody else understand data visualization or this model in machine learning? Or how can they get a job or something, anything? Like, when you're thinking of how can I contribute and add more value, not destroy, add more value to the community or to this I am working on, all the benefits will follow. I 100% guarantee you. So thinking, okay, I need to do 20 notebooks and I had to ask 100 people each day to upvote my notebooks, you're going to become a grandmaster. But if you have, like, eventually you're going to become really a grandmaster. But if you're having contribution in mind and adding value, that's the moment when you're going to have all these benefits that will going to come. So really, if you are passionate about competitions, this is how you get into Kaggle. You go ahead, open a competition that sounds nice, and then you start understanding, learning, look through the notebooks, other notebooks, and try to create something yourself. If you want to create notebooks, just go ahead and do some analytics on something you're very passionate about. Maybe you're passionate about sports, you want to make an analysis on sports. And if the analysis is very, very good, it's going to get traction at some point.
Yeah.
Now, not always. So you want to also be very resilient. Yeah.
I remember in like even in a previous interview, you mentioned you were happy by the fact that you didn't initially get a good traction and you were like quite focused on the process. Just to echo on that, like I would also quite get frustrated, especially like with like it's a stupid thing to compare to, so I apologize, but like with the podcast, it's like a little number that gets thrown in your face. Oh, this is the number of people that watched it. But like for anything in that matter, that's like similar to that number of upvotes, how many views do you get on a blog, number of views on a video. Like if you optimize for that, it's not going to be fun. Like I was there to like just learn about your journey or learn the journey about like all of these grandmasters, and reminding me about that like eventually got it the podcast to like the top podcast in the Kaggle community. Like that was never the goal. It did get to it. In every day, like it becomes very frustrating if you're always staring at that.
Because there's the instant gratification that we had, and I would be a hypocrite to say that I at some point was like, why am I getting upvotes? Like, I'm so proud of this notebook. I work so much. I don't know if you saw the D3 notebook that I created, that I worked my ass off. It has like 80 upvotes in comparison to, I don't know, other notebooks that I didn't work as much, and they have like 500 upvotes. Now, I'm not gonna question anything. This is the algorithm. Maybe people didn't see the value in it. It doesn't matter. But like you said, if it has 5 views, of course, it doesn't have thousands or hundreds or something. But these 5 views were people that you helped in some sort of way. And who says helping 5 people is a bad thing? Like, really? So a constant reminder would be very, very good. Yeah.
We also have Laura Fink in the YouTube chat. Thanks for joining us, Laura.
Oh, Laura Fink?
Yes.
Oh, hello, Laura. Okay.
Everyone wants to learn your secrets.
Yeah,
everyone wants to learn your secrets.
No, I want to know Laura's secrets. Like, she's absolutely amazing. Okay.
I can skip these two because we've answered those. Anjum, also Kaggle Master. Every Kaggler for the first time is showing up. Do you ever find the notebook format creatively restrictive? If you had a blank canvas, what would be your chosen format?
Oh, this is a very good question. So the notebook format in Kaggle or in general?
I think they're talking about Kaggle. Or maybe just Jupyter notebooks. Both are the same thing in a way, mostly.
So in my opinion, I am inevitably thinking of D3. And the fact that, for example, the way I inputted the code for D3 was very, very, it was very restrictive and very hard. And for example, for people that never coded in JavaScript, when you call a variable, it's not x equals to 10. It's var x equals to 10 or const x equals to 10 and so on. And if you forget that thing before, in Visual Studio works, and on my local machine it worked. But whenever I put it into Kaggle, I would get an error and the entire notebook would shut off. And then you need to rerun everything. And then other things that I had to do, little tweaks that really my partner helped me, because I have no technical background whatsoever. And he helped me a lot because I couldn't get Kaggle to work. in this case, I think observable, for example. So if everybody wants to use D3, you can go on observable, and they have is exactly the same format of notebooks, which with markdowns and codes and so on, but you can implement D3 very easily. And then you have a designated part where the chart updates. You don't even have to refresh, it updates automatically every time you input some sort of code. So I think, for example, if Kaggle, and maybe I can actually start a discussion about this, if Kaggle could implement, if Kaggle could make it easier, I have no idea how and if they are technically restricted in some ways, but if they could implement an easier way for us to use D3 in the notebooks, I think many more people would start learning it. And I think there are 3 notebooks in total, 3 or 4 notebooks in total that use D3 at the moment of Kaggle. It was one for beginners. I forgot who. I am very sorry. It was one from Schubert, and it's this one from me. And the fact that it's so hard to make it work, it's a showstopper. It's not a showstopper. It's a barrier in creating it. Yeah. It's a very good question. Very good question. Okay.
We have like a one or two more questions. Maybe you can come back to them afterwards. Do you want to like go to the last experimental bit we had discussed?
The NFL or
yes.
Oh, okay. So
just to give everyone some context, I asked Andrada to like pick a competition she's not looked at all at before, and like walk us through how she would, for the first few minutes, look at the data and how would she approach EDA or like just the data broadly.
Okay. This competition started 8 days ago. I was still in the other one, and I was still struggling with the other one. So I knew when it appeared, I wanted to take advantage of it, because most of the competitions have leaderboard, and they are like normal competitions that people, very, very smart people participate in. But because I am super passionate about EDA, although this competition is not really about data analytics and visualization, it's much more deeper. But it is still some sort of analytics. It has some sort of analytics aspect to it. And I was like, okay, after I'm done with this competition, I really want to start in the NFL one. So I haven't looked at it. I watched a video, I'm not gonna lie, about what NFL is, because I'm from Romania, which is a country in Europe. We have soccer, and I don't know how people play soccer either. So
okay.
I like basketball. I know some stuff about basketball, but about NFL I have no clue. So
okay.
I watched the video, but it didn't shed any light on what. Okay. It's still very, very weird to me. But it's so why I chose it. Let's start with that one, and maybe this is how would be your day-to-day recipe. So I started it. I chose it because, first of all, I want a change of theme. I did for 1.5 months education. It was super amazing, but I want to change it. So this is why data science is so amazing. You can change the field, the playing field, no pun intended, to whatever subject you'd like. So sports, I've never done, I think, a notebook on sports. And again, I want to take advantage that this is kind of an analytics competition. And I want to learn about American football. So here I am. Good. First thing I would do, and I usually do, is read this many times, like 3-4 times, to understand what's the competition about. Then I go to evaluation and understand what's the requirement. So special team metric, I understand the special teams are some players that come in the game. Some maybe a fan of American football fan can explain better in the chat. I need to research more, but I would understand what are the requirements. And then, so before doing anything else, I would jump. And so this is my approach, but any other person might do it differently. So don't take me by word, but this is what I do. I jump straight into the data and I just browse. Okay, so first of all, mental note, it's CSVs. So it's not images, not audio files, not NumPy files or something like that. So it's just plain CSV files. We have multiple files. We have years, so it's tracking on multiple years. We have like time series, maybe something like that. We have the place, the players, the games, PFF scouting data. I have no idea what PFF means. I need to come back to this. Okay. And then I just browse, because in this part I get in more depth. So this is quite a pretty big description of the data for a competition. In this part, I usually get when I am opening a Kaggle notebook and I'm starting to look at the data. So here I'm not perusing. Afterwards, what I do is research. In my case, the research is pretty lame because at the moment I first need to understand what. So first of all, what are the rules of American football? How do you play American football? And then what are the rules of the championship? What are the teams? I understand there are like 32 teams divided in 16 American.
I have no idea. I have no idea at all.
So yeah, so the idea, the reasoning behind it, because in my opinion, in this competition, from what I can say from the 10-minute video I watched today about American football, is the fact that so it's the way you play in one game, but it's also how the games fold. And it might be like in a chess game, for example, when sometimes you sacrifice pieces in order to win. So in my opinion, how this competition might need to be approached is not a winning game by game basis necessarily. This is why I need to understand how they are folding, but winning in the overall picture. Because in basketball, if I remember correctly, if you lose, you're out. So, but here, as I understand, it's not the same rules. So understanding the rules, understanding data, and then I would open a Jupyter notebook. When I would have some free time, I love to make the cover. So first of all, I usually make the cover.
So that comes first, always?
Yeah. Okay. Because I'm like, I want to get into I want to make a commitment. Making a cover is a commitment. It means the notebook is going to come out, like no matter how hard it is. Okay. So yeah, I usually at the beginning make the cover just to be everything pretty and to have peace of mind. And then I would start looking at the data and then going back and forth with the research until I understand something. What I will for sure do in this case, because I have no idea what American football is, I don't know if I told you, is to make a lot of schemas. Because again, I'm a very visual person, and I feel like most people understand information when it's visual, not written, visual. If it's a video with sounds and noises and stuff, it's much better. But I am yet to go there. But schemas, in my opinion, are the best way. And I usually say this, I think I said this too many times, but if you want to make a great notebook, you want to make it for others, like you'd teach others to make it.
Yeah.
Going back to the contribution also that we need to have in mind, because when you are thinking, how can I teach this? How can I explain this to another person that has no idea what American football is? You are gonna get in so much depth within your brain that you're gonna understand it very, very clearly. But if you're doing this only to yourself, you're gonna step over a few steps in between that might need to link the entire image. Now, this would be like the first 3-4 days in the analysis. What I would do in the first 3-4 days, yeah.
Got it.
Beyond that, I have no idea because I haven't seen the data, and I don't know what American football is. Yeah.
I'm like just curious on that. So like people like me don't even know all of the graphs, but like let's say you've come up with a schema and then you're like figuring out how to show it. How do you like go about into the details of picking, oh, this is more of a weave plot, let's say this is more of a histogram? How do you like decide on all of that?
I didn't quite get the question. So if I have a histogram,
how do you decide to present the data once you like have things in place and once you have like a story in your mind?
I think so. The question is, how do I decide what graph to use when I have the insight in mind? Okay.
Yes.
I think this comes, it's going to be such a lame answer, but I think this comes with experience, unfortunately. Meaning that you're going to do, and actually I can give a recipe. So you have some sort of insight. For example, let's say you have two teams, team A and team B, and you have the scores. Yeah. Okay. So the score for team A and the score for team B for 10 years. So you have a few dimensions. You have the team, you have the years, so it's through time, and you have the score. 3 things. How can I go about it? And you can go about it through trial and error. So you already have the data. You already kind of pre-processed it. You brought it to a nice small table that you want to plot now. A first idea, very quickly to mind, would be to create a bar chart. Like a bar chart, which you have here every year. Here is the score. And then here you have team A and team B. And you can see how the scores in different years look. Okay. But does it really showcases the difference? Does it really accurately shows and makes you think about that difference? Because if you look at the bars, one bar can be like, this is a bar and this is the other. You need to compute the difference between them. And also you want to look at the score. So maybe team B had an evolution through time, but the difference between team B and team A got bigger and bigger through time. How do you these are all these little details. What I would recommend now that I've seen many methods to plot, and this is where experience comes really, you want to research as much as possible and see as many examples of plots as possible, is to, for example, show a dot plot where can I share my screen just 1 second?
Sure, please.
Because I feel like me explaining this, it's a funny attempt. Like this, because this is why I thought about it. So you can see the time and you can see the difference much more clear. And you can also compare, for example, if I have multiple other groups, you can compare. But you can see, of course, so this is lower than this, because you have here the axis from 0 to 4.5. Okay, but you can also observe the differences. And the color also helps you see that the green, like let's say team A, was much lower in score all the time than team B. But here they were so close. It was such a tight game and so on. So this one, in my opinion, in this case, is a much more informative graph than a bar chart. But for you, in order to use this, you must know about it. And this is, where you want to make your research and just explore. Yeah.
Gotcha. I think we have time for one question, but again, thanks for that detailed walkthrough. I'm sure I'll go back and try to copy that. I don't foresee any success, but I'll try that. I'm sure others will find it more useful. I think we can squeeze in one question. So here's a controversial one. David asked, it's more D3 is more suited for data journalists and not data analytics in business settings. What you really want is something practical that can get things done right. I mean, maybe I can answer first. To that point, Kaggle is also really experimental. You don't see that data every day at work. It's much more simpler than that most of the times, unless you're in a research environment. And the reason you're trying all of this stuff is because Kaggle is a playground. So you get to try those things. So it's useful in that way.
You're right. And I would like to add upon this. So I see how D3 is a complete waste of time for people that are doing competitions, for example, like hardcore competitions. D3 is a complete waste of time, and I wouldn't recommend to anybody, anybody to do D3, because going back to the example with the bar chart, you don't have to make this awesome gray with bubbles and annotations and so on. If you can do quickly Seaborn or Matplotlib bar chart where you show the differences and you as a data scientist understand everything and you're like, I know what I need to do, you can go ahead and skip. And because I remember I saw a notebook from a grandmaster. He's top 10 in competitions, super hardcore. And his notebook was so insightful, but the visualizations were the most quickest Matplotlib things you can think of. But he doesn't need something more, because he needs just the insights. What I love about data visualization for me is the fact that I would like to share it, for example, with my mother or with a coworker, or just in general to be able to be like he said, like a journal, like a notebook, an analysis. So I know that D3 for people in competitions is not going to be very helpful. But for people that are doing analytical competitions, or for people that are just, like you said, experimenting and doing some playground on Kaggle, and really the fact that I created a notebook of D3 on Kaggle is to be another resource for people to learn, because I didn't have to get into that much trouble to integrate D3, but it's a process. So I understand their opinion, but I feel like it depends the case. Again, it's super customizable. Yeah.
content also by definition is open source. So like now that you've created it, who knows, like maybe everyone starts doing it and then you like again need to level up. And that's how like Kaggle and pretty much YouTube also works. Like some YouTuber does something crazy and now like everyone's doing it. So like that's
Everyone
normal.
is
Now
doing
now you need
great.
to do something even more.
Exactly. And this is what I said about doing outstanding work and kind of doing better than the ones that did last year, because this is how we create good stuff. It's the fact that we innovate, let's say, and this is why we're humans with a brain. I feel like.
Yeah. This has been an awesome interview walkthrough of understanding your greatness. I'd point the audience to your Twitter profile at Andrada Olteanu with W. I always get confused by that. It's there in the YouTube chat, also in the top resource of the forum. So follow her there. You can always find her notebooks as soon as they come out or other. I think there was a GIF I recently saw about this one for the D3 plot that you were working on.
Yeah.
And you can also follow her on Kaggle or find her profile there just by searching her name. You'll see more areas getting golden really soon and these numbers going up. So do check out her profile. And Dada, it's always a great learning experience for me to talk to you, and I'm sure for the community as well. So thanks for sharing these insights.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much. And thank you for everybody who joined and for the questions. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.